Warning, the following video contains spoilers for Star Trek Picard. Now, ahead, warp factor 8. Engage! Greetings, barely sentient humans of the planet Earth. I am Q. As you no doubt have surmised with the assistance of the title of this video, I shall be reviewing Jean Luc's latest episode. It's called Absolute Candor, which amazingly enough is something that most species, including humans, cannot grasp. But it is something I will give you. I would love to tell you that this episode was the highlight of my eternal existence. However, I'm giving you absolute candor. It was decent. We got another flashback to 14 years ago, and in it, Picard really didn't look any younger. Maybe they need to hire some of those folks from X-Men to de-age him properly. And while it did include Jean Luc finding out about the attack on Mars, the whole point of that flashback was to introduce us to a young Elnor, since we'd be meeting an adult Elnor a little later in the episode. Now, Elnor is either a very skilled Romulan fighter or an elf from Middle-earth, but he was just the Rahansu Picard was looking for. Now, I did notice that Hospitality Hologram went ahead and recreated Jean Luc's whole chateau for him, which is a great way to save money and reuse sets. I do love how many different holograms there are, and how they all look like that captain, only better. But still, there's been a whole lot of drama and battling going on, and Jean Luc has barely started on his little quest to save Saji. Now, I will say that Elnor has some moves which he needed to use. Why Picard would feel the need to march his way into a Romulan-only establishment is really beyond me. Did he forget about his other mission? Did he not realize that he might be attacked by these people who might see him as a betrayer or someone who let them down? And why did he walk back to that area to beam out anyway? He could have just stayed with the nuns until it was time to beam away. He beamed out from the nuns area before. I guess you would say he did it because plot? Fair enough. And that little attack by the old-style Romulan bird of prey, well, that was fun. And the rescue by what turned out to be 7 of 9, that was a bit fortuitous. I'm very curious to see how they're going to justify her appearance in the nick of time. You know, there does seem to be a whole lot of prep before getting to the actual mission. Can we move the story along now? Oh, and Saji still continues to bond with her Romulan paramour, who in turn is flirted with and threatened by his own sister. I guess he's from the southern part of Romulus. Really though, there's not really a lot to say about this show. It's entertaining enough. It doesn't ruin Star Trek, nor does it expand it in a super exciting way beyond the frontiers we've already reached. Though maybe by the end of the season we'll look back and all this build-up will have been worth it. Minds blown. Now, it would be totally worth it if at the end we found out that they tied it back to V'ger or Nomad and some grudge that the Romulans have against them. Or even Star Trek Discovery's Control, though if the Zat Vash is that old, then it may be some AI that has no connection with the Federation or Starfleet. But I have to say, all the scenes with Saji just seem to remind us that she's there, and that some Romulan is trying to use her to find where the rest of them are. Is there indeed a colony of synthetic twins out there? And in this episode, once again, we had mention of cash, commerce, things that Gene Roddenberry says no longer exist in the Federation. In fact, in Star Trek First Contact, Jean Luc himself explained how money is no longer a thing, which is utterly ridiculous. Now, certainly the Federation has some type of universal basic living allowance for everyone with healthcare and education and all those wonderful things. But why would Jean Luc make wine if it couldn't be sold? And if there's a big demand for it, who determines who gets it if there's no money? And how did Jean Luc hire a ship? There's no money. Don't tell me he might have traded some wine for it, because that's still barter, and that captain is clearly a beer guy. And why would Raffi live in a trailer in the middle of nowhere and Jean Luc in a nice chateau if there's no money or property? How does property work in this Federation? Does Jean Luc actually own his family's land? And if there's no money and no synthetics, then who does the drudge work that no one else wants to do? And why would they do it? Not having some type of credit or currency doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense. If someone wants something beyond basic food and shelter, there needs to be some system in place for them to get that iPhone 103. And what do people do all day? I mean, not everyone can be a scientist or a cyberneticist or a member of Starfleet or own a vineyard. I would really love to see a Star Trek episode where they showed fast food restaurant workers or bank tellers or retail workers, replicator salesmen, manicurists, barbers, normal people. So back to this episode, it was fine and it moved the story forward fractionally. It gave us some new characters, and the preview for next week actually looks exciting. Perhaps we can actually start the mission in episode 5. Anyways, until next week, check out these videos over here. And of course, if you'd like some more Wisdom of Q, subscribe down there, hit that notification bell, and be sure to follow this channel on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And remember, the trial never ends.